Mm. Hello, respected scholars and all participants. My name is Lien. I'm from Vietnam and I'm work in Ho Chi Minh City University of Natural Resources and Environment. Thank you very much to the organizing committee for accepting our research and giving me the opportunity to present today. My presentation is entitled Responsible Generative AI Adoption in Vietnamese Higher Education, a Conceptual Framework Aligned with SDG 4. In this presentation, I will focus on one main question: how can Vietnamese higher education institutions govern GenAI responsibly, equitably, and in alignment with SDG 4? Today, I will briefly cover 5 parts: the research context, key governance challenges, the research gap and methodology, the GRAVHE framework, and finally the roadmap and contributions. Together, these parts explain why responsible GenAI requires more than simply allowing or banning AI tools. And this slide shows why GenAI is different from traditional education technology. In the past, digital tools mainly supported learning by providing access, content delivery, and learning management. But now, GenAI can directly produce academic outputs such as essays, code, explanations, feedback, and research support. So, GenAI is no longer only a learning tool, it is becoming part of academic production. This creates the central governance question: how can universities support GenAI use while still protecting learning quality, academic integrity, and human responsibility? And this slide highlights why GenAI governance in Vietnam should be treated as a system-level issue. Vietnamese higher education is large and diverse, with 243 universities, about 2.35 million students, and more than 88,000 full-time lecturers. So, GenAI does not affect only a small group of technology users. It can influence teaching, learning, assessment, and academic integrity across the whole higher education system. If each institution's faculty or lecturer respond differently, students may face inconsistent rules and expectations. Therefore, responsible GenAI adoption requires system-level governance, not only individual decisions by students or teachers. And Vietnam has strong digital readiness, but still needs clearer GenAI governance. On the left side, Vietnam has 79.8 million internet users, equal to 78.8% of the population. However, about 21.5 million people remain offline and 59.5% of the population live in rural areas. Vietnam also has 110.5 million mobile broadband subscriptions, 91.3% smartphone users among subscribers, and 85.8% of households using fiber optic internet. These numbers show a strong digital foundation, but digital infrastructure alone is not enough. The key gap is that universities still need practical rules for AI use disclosure, data protection, assessment redesigns, and AI literacy. So the main message is Vietnam is digitally ready, but institutional GenAI governance must still be developed. And continue this slide present the two foundations of our framework. First, SD3.4 is used as a governance lens. It emphasizes inclusion and equitable quality education, relevant skills, self-learning environment, and teacher capacity. Second, the framework is grounded in responsible AI principles, including transparency, accountability, privacy, fairness, and human oversight. In this study, these principles are not discussed only at a general level. They are translated into practical university mechanisms such as AI use disclosure, data protection, assessment, redesign, and AI literacy. So the key message is this slide: responsible GenAI adoption must support both ethical AI use and sustainable quality education. And this slide explains the main research gap from global principle to local implementation. At the top, we have global AI governance guidance, such as UNESCO, OECD, and NIST. These frameworks provide important principles like transparency, accountability, privacy, fairness, safety, and human oversight. In the middle, Vietnam also has national policies on AI strategy, educational digital transformation, and personal data protection. And however, the key gap is at the institutional level. Vietnamese universities still need concrete mechanism for AI use disclosure, assessment redesigns, data governance, faculty training, and student AI literacy. Therefore, this study asks one central question: what governance dimensions are required to support responsible, equitable, and SD3.4 aligned GenAI adoption in Vietnamese higher education institutions? And GRAVHE is designed to bridge the gap between global principle, national policy, and practical university implementation. And this slide summarizes the methodology of the study. We use a conceptual policy analysis and framework development approach, not an empirical survey or interview study. The process includes 6 steps. First, we identify source domains related to GenAI in higher education, academic integrity, responsible AI, Vietnamese policy, and SD3.4. Second, we extracted key governance concerns such as disclosure, privacy, equity, assessment, validity, and AI literacy. Third, we group these concerns into thematic clusters. Fourth, we map them to responsible AI principle and SD3.4 targets. Fifth, we interpreted them in the Vietnamese higher education context. Finally, we constructed the GRAVHE framework. So, the main point is this study synthesized academic literature, policy documents, and SD3 principles into a practical governance framework for Vietnamese universities. And this slide presents the overall GRAVHE framework, which stands for GenAI Responsible Adoption Framework for Vietnamese Higher Education. At the center, the framework connects responsible AI principle with SD3.4 aligned higher education governance. Around the center, there are four main dimensions: ethical policy and AI disclosure. And second, data governance and infrastructure. Third, pedagogical transformation. And finally, comprehensive AI literacy. And so the key idea is that GRAVHE does not replace global AI guidance. Instead, it translates broad principles into practical governance mechanisms for Vietnamese higher education institutions. Now, I will explain each dimension in more details. The first dimension is ethical policy. The key problem is hidden AI use and authorship uncertainty. Therefore, universities need AI use categories and disclosure templates to clarify what is permitted, restricted, or prohibited. The second dimension is data governance. The main issue is privacy and platform risk. Institutions need restricted data rules and approval tools. So, students and lecturers do not upload sensitive personal, academic, or institutional data into unsafe AI platforms. The third dimension is the pedagogical transformation. The problem here is quick assessment validity. To respond, universities should use portfolios, oral defense, stage tasks, and reflective AI use statements to evaluate student learning process, not only final products. The fourth dimension is comprehensive AI literacy. The issue is uneven student and faculty capacity. Therefore, university needs functional, critical, ethical, and data-related AI literacy. Together, these four dimensions provide a practical structure for responsible Gen AI governance in Vietnamese higher education. And this slide presents the readiness-based implementation roadmap with four phases. Phase 1 is minimum governance baseline, including basic AI use policy, disclosure forms, and syllabus statement. Phase 2 is capacity building, focusing on faculty training, student orientation, and AI literacy modules. Phase 3 is assessment and curriculum redesigns using methods such as portfolios, oral defense, state tasks, and reflective components. Phase 4 is monitoring and adaptation, where universities regularly review policies, collect feedback, and update governance practice. The key message is Gen AI governance should be implemented gradually based on institutional readiness. And the first contribution is reframing Gen AI governance. Instead of viewing Gen AI mainly as a problem of academic misconduct, this study frames it as a broader issue of sustainable higher education governance. This means Gen AI governance should address not only cheating, but also learning quality, assessment validity, equity, privacy, and institutional responsibility. The second contribution is operationalizing responsible AI. The study translate abstract principles such as transparency, accountability, privacy, and fairness into practical university mechanism. GRAVHE turns responsible AI principle into concrete covenant action for higher education institutions. And the third contribution is contextualizing GenAI governance for Vietnamese higher education institutions. GRAVHE adapts global AI principles to Vietnam's context, where universities have different levels of infrastructure, faculty readiness, policy capacity, and student access. The final message is that responsibility train AI adoption should not be unmanaged adoption or simple prohibition. It requires clear policy, secure data governance, assessment redesigns, and comprehensive AI literacy to support inclusive and quality higher education. Thank you very much for your attention.